Let's call meeting. Let's call meeting to order. Approval of last month's minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, go with the agenda.
Okay, great. Meeting number 1000. Just want to note that. And at meeting number 1000, this is also the last board meeting for board trustee David Sidney. So I'd like to acknowledge David and all of his effort and contribution to the board in the past nearly 7.5 years, 7 years and 5 months. First meeting appointed in September 2017, first meeting October 25th of 2017. So certainly appreciate your contribution to the district, and couldn't have been a greater partner to work with, and appreciate everything in terms of your contributions and your diligence and concern for ensuring that the district kept to a plan and certainly was a good fiscal steward and so forth. And so we're going to miss you. To acknowledge all of the things that have occurred during 7.5 years, I think are noteworthy. First and foremost, starting out was the start and the completion of downtown transfer center renovation projects. That occurred in the first year, year and a half of your tenure, and following that, the district's rebrand, which I know there was real interest on the board's part, and your part on that and what that looked like and what that meant. That was followed by the sustainability policy being determined as part of the initial part of your tenure. A big part of what that contributed towards was our first hybrid electric bus and our first battery electric bus. A big part of what the sustainability policy outlined was the embracing of new technologies and reduction of carbon footprint. Another big one was the comprehensive mobility study. That's the start of that and the completion of that, and really from that, we provided a strategic pathway for the district's decisions over the course of the next 5 years since that process started. So a lot of the things that came out of there were a number of route and schedule changes, the service hour extensions that started a couple years ago, along with some of the changes that we implemented last fall, route and service changes that we implemented last fall. Specifically, were identified in the comprehensive mobility study. The all-day pass program was something obviously we started that came out of the study. The UPass program was something that came out of the study. The mobile ticketing and fare capping applications were something that were identified that we implemented. The K through 12 and the Veterans Free Ride program, and then more recently the post-secondary and GED free ride programs, all part of that, as well as the employer access agreement concept, which we implemented with Amazon last fall. The APC technology and having more mindful data that we were getting in that came from the implementation of the CADVL software program. With our change, the new paratransit software program, we're getting very close to launching the online scheduling tool, which was something that was identified as part of that. So just a whole host of things that drove a lot of the policy initiative decisions that we've made here that came out of the mobility study, which I know you were an integral part of and heavily participated in. Last but not least, I'll mention the facility evaluation study, which led to the submittal for the facility expansion grant award, which obviously we've awarded that this past fall and have now broken ground. So something else to note in your time here. And last but not least, I also mentioned many of these same things with Steve Ernst, but kind of, I think an important part is since your time on the board, we've been awarded over $54 million in state and federal discretionary grant funds, which over 21 million of those have gone to new vehicle technologies with our hybrids and electric. So quite a legacy and quite something to be proud of. And, none of this could have happened without the board's support and the board's strategic vision. Appreciate your part in all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So with that, we'll move on to a couple other items of note. Joining us today is Troy Velante, who's started the whole week now, right? He is our new transit operations manager for paratransit. So Troy comes to us with some years of service in the same capacity at DeKalb Transit. So we're looking forward to him coming on and bringing his experience and expertise to us.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you. All right, a couple other things to update you on, state and federal updates. I included in your packet something that the Illinois Public Transportation Association has put together to outline what we consider to be our fiscal cliff for in downstate transit. A lot of discussion around the RTA and what's happening there, but this kind of boils it down to what we're experiencing and what I want to make sure that you have in your hands, that you're familiar with the things that we're talking to our state delegation about, talking to House and Senate leadership about as a state transit association in terms of what we're experiencing as a problem. I think the main thing to be mindful of is that, you know, our formula funding is somewhat broken in terms of how it functions. Where in the governor's most recent budget, there's a total state appropriation of like $475 million for downstate transit. The revenue source for that comes nowhere close to generating the amount of revenue to meet that appropriation. So in the fact sheet, what outlines what the 2024 appropriation was, how much that the state received in sales tax collections that went in the downstate transit fund, and then how much that downstate transit agencies drew. And so very clearly in that, you know, kind of in the middle part right here, very clearly what it outlines is the problem. It's about $150 million deficit between what the fund generates for revenue for downstate transit agencies to spend versus what is appropriated to be spent, right? So that lies in the problem is that, you know, we're just not generating what we need and what it was intended to do. And so we need to fix that, right? The other part and the other challenge that we wanted to ensure that our delegation was aware of is the formula itself and the whole concept around local match. And as we've talked about a lot, you know, you get 65% reimbursement from the state if you've got a 35% local match, but generating the local match from a variety of revenue sources is difficult, right? So we've struggled over the years to generate a local match. We've used more and more federal funds to do that. And with the board's direction, we've even increased that so that we've been able to increase revenue. But that's not entirely sustainable in the long term, not only with us, but obviously with our other downstate agencies. And in most downstate agencies that levy a property tax values, they're not increasing at the level of which is commensurate with your expenses that are increasing. And so that local share becomes more and more constrained. And if you can only ask for a certain amount every year, then you can only get a certain amount from the state, and therefore you can't increase. And if you can't increase, then you have to start looking at decreasing in areas, and that could come in the line of service decreases. And that's what a lot of downstate agencies are facing at this point. So with all of this, what we want to make sure our legislators are aware of is what our conditions are, what our challenges are. One is that, you know, the formula is broken. We're saying that it's not broken, but it's just not sustainable to meet the challenges that we're all facing downstate, and that we're looking at some changes to be considered with that when there's a discussion of the RTA region changes, and namely what we're advocating for is a change in our formula from the 80% of 3/32 in sales tax revenues collected to increase that to 100% of 4/32, and then 100% of 3/32 initially, but then at a later date, 100% of 4/32, so that revenue increases at a steady amount that's commensurate with expenses. And so that, along with a reduction in the local share and reducing our local share requirements from 35% to 25%, is something that we're also asking for, so that reimbursement becomes a 75-25 share from IDOT. And I think, you know, those two things in itself would really set downstate up for success in the short and long term, and really allow you know, either servicing our various communities to be responsive to the needs and increase as it's designed to do. So anyways, please keep that and take a look at that. Let me know if you have any questions on that, but that's the downstate's position that we've been working with and trying to advocate for, and we'll continue to do that in the spring session. So with that, then the other thing I was going to mention to you on the federal side, obviously you've seen the news that a appropriation bill got passed in Congress a couple weeks ago, and so what does that mean for transit? It does a continuing resolution for the remainder of the year, so it'll fund transit programs at the level that it funded in 2024, and so basically. No real increases in terms of the amount that's funding the programs, which is the best, I think, scenario that could have happened as opposed to reduction, right? So at least it's a status quo for the next this budget year through September. So what we expect moving forward then is obviously our full year funding apportionment will come out and get released, and then we can look at evaluating that to program. But it will not, it'll be at least the level it was the prior year, and probably a slight increase based on the formula that goes into that. The other thing to note with the passing of the bill is that release the notice for funding opportunities for the bus and bus facilities program, and so we'll have the opportunity here probably in the next month or two to start developing an application for the replacement of our 2013 vehicles, last diesel vehicles that we have in the fleet that need to be replaced. So a couple things to keep in mind of as we move forward. Last thing that I'll mention, something that happened since the last board meeting, we've worked with Flixbus, which is the parent company for Greyhound, and they've started a new route through the Eastside Transfer Center. They have a new route that runs from Madison to Cincinnati by way of downtown Chicago. And so what that does is it adds another trip from the Eastside Transfer Center to downtown Chicago and back from downtown Chicago, but also to Cincinnati or Madison. So obviously that's a good thing when it comes to, we get the ticket sales revenue from that, and then obviously their entry agreement that we have for service into there. So that's just something new, a little bit more activity out there, and a little more revenue coming away from that. So that's good.
Will they be leasing any space with that? No.
Yeah, we are currently all leased in terms of our available space, these side transfer centers. That's also a positive too. But just we make the facility available for the berth that they currently use for the other Greyhound trips available. And so now it's they've got basically 2 inbound trips to Chicago, 2 outbound trips from Chicago that serve the facility daily. Either it's a Greyhound bus or a Flixbus, or separately branded bus. Yeah. Any other questions? If none, we'll get on to the rest of the agenda. So first off, we got the finance section, under payment of bills. Women's McCarthy services rendered through January 31st, and AJHL services rendered through also January 31st of 2025. Any questions on either one of those? Okay, seeing none, then we have the approval of accounts payable invoices in the amount of $1,399,363.48. Any questions on that? If anybody,
I'll move that we approve the accounts payable invoices. I'm getting ahead of myself. In the amount of $1,399,363.48.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Next, then we have Schwab Actuarial Services approval payment of an invoice dated March 3rd, 2025, in the amount of $11,700 to be paid to the pension account for a change in retiree benefits.
I'll make the motion to approve the payment of invoice dated March 3rd, 2025 for Schwab Actuarial Services.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Next, we have approval of the unaudited financial statements for January. Xavier, do you want to walk us through Memo?
Sure, for January, revenue, is about 5.7% under budget projections. However, year to date, we are about 5% over budget projections. Our salary and benefits are slightly higher than originally budgeted, primarily due to overtime, pay due to ongoing staffing challenges. Overall, we are fiscal year to date, we are about $605,000 or 3.88% under budget projections for revenue and expenses overall. So
Any questions? Seeing none, then, Smith, approval.
I move that we approve the unaudited financial statements for January 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, shall we get the next two items?
yep, so we're just presenting the proposed 2026 budget. As I mentioned previously at the public hearing, there was a slight change to the calculation for SMTD, which then slightly changed the allocation for revenue for state and federal. However, the total numbers did not change, so it's still what was presented. So we're asking for approval of that proposed 2026 operations budget.
I'll make the motion to approve the fiscal year 26 proposed operations budget.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Okay,
All right, and then in relation to that, we have the resolution for the IDOT fiscal year dope agreement, which is in conjunction with our budget. So we're asking for approval for that agreement as well.
I'll make the motion to approve resolution number R 2503 IDOT fiscal year dope agreement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
great, thank you. Javier? Next up, we have the pension portfolio review for the period of March 25th, 2025, the pension investment statement for the month ending February 2025. We have Jeff DeBenedetto here from the DeBenedetto and Associates. So go over that. Give us all the good news.
Well, I'm hoping that later in the year I don't have to show up in my hockey goalie uniform, protecting myself, but not terrible for now. So in your packets, you have this page that has the highlighted date, March 25th, 2025. If you turn the page then to the portfolio overview or the dashboard, you can see, in spite of what we hear daily in the news, overall the pension account is flat year to date, actually slightly up. And that's due to some diversification that we did at the beginning of the year. The first half of the pension deposit also came into the account, and then just the overall diversification that we have in the portfolio. So year to date, we started the year at just under 32 million, 31,775,923. You can see that contribution of 875. That we have pension obligations of 310 so far this year. And then follow that down, we've got investment gain net of 206,558 year to date. So not terrible news in spite of what is published out there. Down below the pie chart, asset allocation, you can see basically we have reallocated to a 60-40, 60 equities, 40 fixed income, and it's a little less than 3% in cash. So I think this moderate reallocation that we did at the beginning of the year is definitely helping protect us from the volatility that we're seeing year to date.
Do you see us doing any more rebalancing as, with emerging markets or other opportunities?
So rebalancing right now, we're still in a wait and see scenario. I know we've been talking about that since basically November, December. We're still digesting the end of 24 and a lot of what's being proposed, some is sticking, some is not. So we're kind of like the Federal Reserve. We're edging towards things could get a little more difficult in the stock markets, but yet it's too early to tell. February inflation data really wasn't that bad. Spending numbers weren't that bad. So we're talking about ticking up 0.1%. So right now there isn't enough data in spite of what's being, again, published that it's not gloom and doom yet. Tariffs are in place. There's more that might get in place. I don't believe that they're gonna stay throughout the year. I think it would be impossible to manage the economy with inflation and a slowing economy to have both happen at the same time. So to answer your question, I don't think we're gonna do any more rebalancing from a stock to bond allocation currently. Interestingly enough, but also logical, the best performing asset class this year is international. There's so much uncertainty here in the US that international stocks are kind of just plugging along. And we have a 10% allocation there, and that's why we diversify. So we're capturing some of that positive return to offset some of what's going on here. So more to come on that, but at this point, no more reallocating today.
Thanks.
And real quick, if you turn the page, we always monitor the fiscal year to date. So that is as of 7/1/2024 through 3/25. You can see we're still gathering a 5% return, which is a little bit less than what we assume for actuarial purposes. So I've got a little work to do before we get to 6/30, but we haven't given all of that back. As I alluded to, right now it's not gloom and doom, in spite of what we might think. It's very volatile, it's uncertain, which the equity markets generally don't like, but I just checked before the meeting. The Dow finished up 1% today, still down for the quarter, the S&P up 0.5%, and the NASDAQ, which is tech heavy, was pretty flat. So you'll see in the news, it was the worst quarter since 2022, but the markets do go down about 1 in 3 years, so it's not to be unexpected. And so far, it's not tragic. 2022, I think overall, most balanced portfolios finished down, close to double digits, and we're flat year to date. So again, I have my rose-colored glasses on still, but I'm not in panic mode at all. So we have more to come. We're keeping an eye on things, and certainly if we feel like we need to reallocate the pension portfolio, we will do that and then advise you.
Yeah. Great.
Any questions? Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the operations maintenance facilities report. Dan's memo, updating you on all those various areas are included in your packets. Do you want to touch upon that?
Yeah, I was gonna get a couple of things, fix around service, you'll see it was down a little bit February to February, but, keep in mind that February of 24 was a leap year, so we had an extra day, and this February, if you remember, we had about 3 or 4 days where extremely cold temperatures where we generally see a little bit less ridership, because nobody wants to go outside. So that was probably the biggest contributor to that. So, paratransit, we had the January numbers. We were, right at 13,000 rides, which is high as we've been in quite some time. So we're working on getting some additional staff because it's really become a challenge for current staff to keep up with that many rides on a daily basis. So, vehicle maintenance reports, overall things are pretty good. We did have a couple struggles, on those cold days, but we got through it, didn't have any service issues. So, and we are getting 8 new paratransit vans through IDOT's Consolidated Vehicle Procurement Program. We don't have a hard date to pick those up yet, but, Paula and myself and Tricia got all the paperwork in and should be sometime probably, in the next few weeks. So we'll be retiring 8 of our older vehicles and getting the new ones on the road. Same thing's gonna happen with SMTD as well. They're getting some new vans too. So we're gonna have a lot of new vehicles rolling in here in the next few months. So it's good and it's bad. It takes a lot of time to get them ready, but it's also nice to get rid of the old ones. So facilities report. Spent a lot of time moving boxes and file cabinets for the construction project to move on. That's really been the biggest challenge. Obviously the weather's been pretty good, so we haven't had to do a whole lot of snow stuff. Hopefully now that the weather's starting to break, we'll get back out and finish a couple shelter projects we didn't get to last fall because we ran out of weather. Project report. Facility expansion project has been pretty flat, not a whole lot going on. The electricians are building panels off site, so they haven't been here for a couple weeks. But we have a meeting tomorrow, so hopefully we get some good news and we start moving forward. So it's been slow. I think right now we are 70 days behind for what they projected, which is 70 working days, so that's quite a bit. So
And that's due to the The surprise.
It's
found
due to
on
a
the
couple
ground.
things, yeah, the soils, the change orders, the weather, and them revamping their approach to how they want to do the dirt work with doing the deep stuff first. And those plans not being complete at the time that we needed them to be, so, certainly not the news we were hoping for. 70 days is a lot for a project that's barely started.
But you have the change order that covers what we're talking about later in the agenda for the sewer and the fiber work, and so, waiting, we did get a chance to talk to IDOT while they were on site here last week and press them on expediting that review of that change order which they've done, so we should be hearing back from them very shortly on getting approval to move forward with that, but obviously need the board's approval on the change order as well. Thanks for that. So, hopefully in the next week, we should be getting good news to move things.
Mhm.
The paratransit demand and response software, we did go live as planned. It's gotten better, where there's still a few bugs we're working through, and Troy's getting caught up on how that system works, because it's new to him. As his old employer used something different, so, we're still getting some training, and we're getting good input from our drivers where the problem areas are, so, the contractor's been quite responsive to work through those problems with us, so. So we're gonna hold off on the passenger portal for a little bit, because we don't wanna have things roll out till we're ready and we're sure what we got going on now is working as it should, so.
But that is ready to go. It's just,
It
we
is
want to
ready to
make
go.
sure that we don't perpetuate the issues that we have. Recreate the issues that we have. Want to make sure we get those nailed down before.
And then we did open the bids for the telephone system replacement on the 27th. Some of the bidders filled the form out wrong, which is not one of the forgivable form mess ups you can have. So after talking with Paula and Mike and our consultant, we just ended up throwing out all those bids, and we're gonna go back out, hopefully here in the next 3 weeks, and get it wrapped up. So, we did have, what was there, 4 people that provided bids?
What is like 6?
6, so we'll be good, I don't think we're gonna lose anybody because of the rebid, so.
But 4 of them got thrown out because of that one form. So we're trying to work on how to talk to these bidders before they actually submit something that they're not supposed to, so.
So any questions on that? All right, and then, I think you guys have the memo there on, for security cameras for our new vans. The new vans I just talked about, they don't come from the state with security cameras, installed, so we had to go out for bid for, the equipment and the installation of those. So we did receive 2 bids, Safe Fleet at $61,089 and Midwest Transit Equipment at $83,248. So, staff is recommending that we issue a PO to Safe Fleet in the amount of $61,089 for provide the equipment and the installation of the new vans.
I would like to add, he puts in the 5339 funds that we have, but we also have some older 5310 funds some remaining funds in a grant. So I would like to use the 12,113 from that old grant first, and then use our 5339 funds. But totally funded using transportation development credits, so no local funds are needed.
I'll move that we approve the security cameras PO to safely in the amount of $61,089.
Thank you very much.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. If there's no other questions on the apps, maintenance facilities report, we'll move on to the HR report, claims history for February 2025 included in your packet. As you can see, we were, what was that? We're up and down, right?
Down for a month.
Down for the month, but not for the year. So some good news for February and slight increase for year to date. Obviously continues to fluctuate. Any questions? We will move on then to the marketing report. So included in the packet, there's just an overview of marketing activities for March. For review, obviously we included, there was a note about starting a new campaign for advertising on the buses, which, anytime we have free space on one of our racks, we put in these other advertise here, things to make sure people are aware that they have an opportunity to buy space. So we did that. Aside from that, then, a couple contracts that, we had for advertising, one with Remedies, one with Goodwill, and one with IDOT, that were approved over the last month, since last meeting. So the revenues for those contracts go to about $17,000. Any questions?
No, just a comment I saw in Orlando's, a memo here, you know, the participation at the YMCA as
Yep.
well as at Skyrise, and I just think it's great that we continue to do that and be out in the community like that and provide those kind of on the spot services, so that was nice to see.
I appreciate that and pass it along. Yeah, the Skyrise piece went out, or an extension of what we did for the facility escapes from after the fire.
Luther Center, or, oh, no, the other.
Park Terrace.
Park Terrace, right, where, you know, in talking with them, we discussed the opportunity where most of the residents are senior and or would qualify for benefit access to just go on site and sign people up. And so Skyrise is very similar to that. We reached out to them. All right, next item I have in the marketing report here is an approval for request for a vehicle for, this will be the fourth year in a row that we've done this, approved for a Stuff to Bus event for Rockford Crisis Nursery. So in a couple weeks in April, I wanted to do a Stuff to Bus events in which for Crisis Nursery at Sam's Club, people have the opportunity to purchase items at Sam's. Food on there, and we put the bus out there for 3 days to accumulate all of those items, and then they come on and take them away. But we've done that for 3 years in a row, and I'm asking the board to do it for the support that.
I would make the motion to approve the event for the Rockford Crisis Nursery.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. That's it for marketing. Next is grants. First on the agenda, we have the approval of the DBE program plan. Paul, do you want to walk us through that for the board?
Yeah, really not that much. FTA put out that they were making a new plan and they're separating all the grantees into tier 1 and tier 2. Tier 1, which we are in, is basically the same thing we've always been doing. So, I have updated it to make it, easier to read, kind of more clear. I've also added, the assistance of the, finance and procurement specialist to help me with the procurement parts of this. Obviously, we only have 1% right now. It's really hard in this area to get anything above that, just for the fact most vendors are Chicago vendors who really don't want to come this far out. So we've had some issues. There is a to be determined on page 13. I didn't know at the time I was writing this who this would be. Sometimes if a vendor does not have sufficient good faith effort on the DBE side, that they could be thrown out for being non-responsive. So in this new plan, there's going to be an administrative reconsideration. And I believe we're going to name Dan Engelkis as the to be determined on page 13. So I intend to hopefully submit as is, except for adding Dan's name in there. And so I ask the request that the board approve the updated DBE plan.
With the,
Excuse me, I move that we approve the DBE program plan as presented with the edits and answers.
All in favor?
Aye.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on then to safety and training, the report for February included in your packet. You see some activity accent wise, but outside fault in February. Something that, any questions? Okay, good. Then moving on to other business, item A, approval of change order for facility expansion project. We struck that from the agenda. Or not?
We did?
Do we have a?
I
memo on
don't
that?
have anything.
Do I have that as the change order for?
I'm sorry?
Approval of the change order for the expansion project? We have a,
Change order number 5 and 7?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great if I actually had those numbers with. We do have two, Mike mentioned it before. I thought we'd already did a thing on that, but,
Okay. We're on.
because of the utilities, I
Yeah.
can run out and get numbers. I don't have them. One is a little under 100,000. I believe the other one's 300 or 400,000. Basically, it's utility stuff that is not a kind of maybe can we have to do this, so it's changing. I apologize for not having the exact numbers.
Can we relay that over till after executive session?
Yes, you could do
Okay.
that. That'd be great.
All right,
Thank
and
you.
then we'll bring that back on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay. So lay that over for now, then we have executive session, so I'd like to confirm next meeting that we have on the agenda schedule.
Yeah, so we were tentatively, go with Monday, April 28th. And then, we're looking ahead to May. And.
Yeah.
19th? At 3:30, okay? And then if we need to move the April 28th meeting, we will.
Yeah,
Once,
we can
once
confirm.
we, yep, perfect. Okay. And we're going to executive session to discuss pending litigation matters pursuant to 5 ILCF 122C11 and to discuss collective bargaining matters pursuant to 5 ILF 122C2 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act.
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Now,
Move that we come out of executive session.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, going back to other business, item A, for consideration approval of change order for facility expansion project. So in front of you, you've got the memo that outlines IFB 2303 change orders 5 and 7. The total for the work associated with sanitary sewer system, fiber optics cabling associated work with that totals $386,970.85. There was some additional work is also associated the sanitary sewer system that came out of the building that was included as part of that change order, which was also then that's change order 7, which totals $90,094.32. So the total combined amount for the change order associated project is $477,065.17. That would be funded by cap 21-1132. That's the IDOT grant funding for the project. No local funds would be needed. And so we're asking for the board's approval to award IFB 2303 change order 5. That amount at $386,970.85 and change order 9 or change order number 7 for $90,094.32 for the project. Okay, quick and fast.
Yep, that's good.
Questions?
So good.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
No, great, thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Move that we adjourn.
Yep, that's it.
Is it?
Last of the-
Second.
All in favor?
All right. We have something for you, Dave.